It again. Everyone have a good lunch. That's how it works. When somebody asks you a question, you respond. Good work, folks. Good job. So it's a really fun time again. It's Ignite time. And as you remember, those are 5-minute presentations with auto-advancing slides every 15 seconds. Tom Laro is going to be kicking us off with his presentation, The Importance of Now. And really what that's about is getting fast feedback and continuous integration and delivery pipelines. Please welcome Tom.
All right, real quickly, show of hands. Who here has learned something awesome these past 2 days? All right, now keep your hands up if you remember exactly what you were doing this time last week. So we can remember this conference right now because we are here in the moment, in the present. It is fresh in our minds. And for your developers, it is the same thing. When they are heads down hacking away at their code, their minds are fully engaged in the process. They've got all the methods open. They're doing everything they need to write that code. So if your build pipeline takes a long time or the code you write doesn't get tested for a few weeks, they're not going to be in that same mindset if they have to go back and fix something. Think of your CI/CD pipeline like a game. Not only does it have to have tests and challenges and to prove that you have quality code, but you also have to give feedback fast so that the player, the developer, knows if they need to retry something and go back again. I could go on and on about why it's important to go fast. But the question is how? How do you get there? How do you speed up your pipelines? If you're using a CI system like Jenkins, take advantage of the pipeline syntax and especially the keyword parallel. This allows you to run multiple components at the same time and can dramatically speed up the process of things. So for instance, you can do your code linting while you're running your static code analysis or passing it off to SonarQube, for instance, or while spinning up your environments. Basically, anything that doesn't need the immediate preceding action is a candidate for parallelization. Jenkins even has the concept of the fail fast keyword, which will terminate all the other parallel steps and immediately report if anyone has an issue. This decreases your time to notification. Building inside of a container can not only give you a lot more reliable builds, but can speed up the process. Say, for instance, you're building a JavaScript application and you have to do an npm install. And we all know how long an npm install can take. So if you set up a nightly job that does an npm install and puts the contents of the node modules directory inside of a container, you can then simply spin up that container, run your build inside of it, and immediately have access to all the dependencies you need. You don't need to run npm install on every single build, and you dramatically speed up your process. So web testing is great, but something like Selenium can be sort of slow. We have kind of switched over to Selenium. It is an open source tool which will dynamically scale Selenium grids to meet demand. For us, it spins them up in our Kubernetes cluster, and we can dramatically scale to meet our need. Combining that with rewriting our tests so that instead of having one long-running suite of tests, we have kind of massively parallelized those into smaller little feature sets. We can speed up our throughput and avoid a situation where one long-running test holds up the grid for everybody else. Another big important thing you need to know is the SLA of your tools. We have one code scanning tool that has a 24-hour SLA for running a scan on our tests. I can build the code, deploy it to our lowest environment, throw it through thousands of tests, all in under 20 minutes. Where do I put a 24-hour wait in that process? Your developer's time is valuable. Invest in tools that understand this. And of course, all the speed of the world is great, but if you don't have visibility into the process, you're going to have issues. So your developers shouldn't need to be watching your CI system. They should be able to focus on other tasks and be notified immediately if there's an issue. Basically, you should never have this. You should be able to notify your developers instantly of an issue, unless, of course, you find out that your developers have been deleting those notifications, and then you have to resort to other things, such as status boards, Slack notification, or the ever-famous managerial email. There are lots of ways you can speed up your pipelines. The question always is to ask yourself is, how can I make this go faster? And because the faster you can make your pipelines, the more productive you can make your developers. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Who here wants to work slow? Yeah, I didn't think so. You're in the wrong place if you want to work slow. Now I'm pleased to welcome Mike Butler to the stage. Mike is a father of 3 boys and also an IT manager down at Optum in Cincinnati, which is a part of United Health Group. An interesting thing about Mike as well is that he's thinking and considering starting a Devopsdays Cincinnati. So if you're from Cincinnati and you're interested in being part of that, and I think there's a couple other states nearby there as well, Kentucky and Indiana, so you could be from the region and want to help create something new, you should talk to Mike. But what Mike's going to talk about right now is DevOps for tweens. Please welcome Mike.
Hey everybody, how's everyone doing? So I'm going to talk a little bit about DevOps for tweens. My name is Mike Butler. Like you said, I'm an IT manager for Optum Technologies, part of United Health Group. My focus there is building our chef servers and supporting our entire environment. So these are my 3 sons. That's Trey, looking goofy. Miles is in the middle, and Mason's over on the right-hand side. They have a great aptitude for coding. They've liked coding for quite a while, and Trey has been doing First Lego League for the last few years. So this is where it started for me. I started coding when I was 7 years old in 1981 on an Atari 400 with a membrane keyboard. So when I saw the Atari up there, I was pretty excited. My sister and I used to write Choose Your Own Adventures games. So today, kids are starting so much younger. They make a Codapillar that has little lines on it that you snap them together and it goes and does it. My kids did Scratch in 2nd grade, and now they're doing Lego Mindstorms, which is there. So what Lego Mindstorms is a controller and motors and sensors, and then you program it with blocks. You slide them around, you put different if-then-elses, and wire everything together. And then you can make a robot move like that. So the first organization is a great organization. I'm not going to go into it because I don't have a whole lot of time. But they have First Lego League and First Robotics. Please look them up. It was started by Dean Kamen in 1989. So First Lego League is a competition that has 3 basic parts. There's a project, a robot build where they complete missions, and then they have to, in the tournament, they have to put their robots to the test, and they have 3 runs. So when I'm a coach for their Lego League team, and we have to keep our hands off. We're not allowed coding for them. We're not allowed telling them what they are doing for their project. They have to come up with it on their own. They're allowed asking questions, and we can set some structure, and we can do a code, but maybe not them. So acceptance testing is one of the things that they really have a hard time with, right? So there's groups of 2 that are putting bots together, and then they put them on the table and run them, and then they go back and do it again and do it again. But that's not going to be the bot that they use. The other issue they have is file saving. A lot of times they just save it on their shared drives, and they don't version, and they go back and find the things that are not supposed to be there, or the other way around. And then during the project, it's not as fun as coding, so they just kind of forget to do it, and they have stuff to do at home, and they never go home and or never bring it back. So, we have issues with things of holding accountability. The day of the competition is just absolute crazy. It's about 12 hours long. They get there at 7 a.m. They have to do all their presentations. They can add missions to their day if they get their robot working good. So this is where I started Kanban and said, wow, this is going to work out really well if I just introduce some principles. So enter DevOps for tweens. So doing some principles, like we'll talk about here in a minute, we can set some structure, and that's kind of direction. Stand-ups. So I want to initiate daily stand-ups so they can say, oh, this is what I'm going to do today, and go get it done. This will hold them accountable. If they had stuff that they had to do over the weekend, they can stand up and say, I did my thing over the weekend, or I didn't do my thing over the weekend. Another important thing for acceptance testing is having a master builder. So they never had one person that was responsible for putting the code on the bot itself. It was always just somebody would put their thing and it never got done. So, and then code repository, documenting and saving code. That's the one space I really struggle with myself. So how to teach them how to do that, because you're not going to teach kids Git. It's a little bit too and doing Kanban, so every day, this is what we have to do. When they come up with something, oh, we need to program this little piece. Go put it on the board. When you're done with your piece, take it, move it over, move it over, move it over until you're done. And lastly, doing post-incident reviews. So when there are things that are a fail, let's get back together and review it and figure out, how can we do this better? Especially after the competition, come back together and just do a really big PIR. So, we want to teach them the ways of the DevOps because they're learning coding now. So the things that we talk about on practices for DevOps, we should be teaching that to them as well. So that's pretty much it. I really do, if you don't know what Mindstorms are, don't know what First LEGO League is, go research it. First LEGO League is a great organization to teach the kids different things. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. That was awesome. If you ever want to have some interesting stories, I found this to be almost universally true. Talk to technical managers who have kids, and then ask how they, manage chores and stuff in their household. There's more often than not a long story to follow, and often some ways to learn how we can improve in our own lives, too. What I'd like to do is take a brief moment to thank some of our vendors. And if you have, from my perspective, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with an event like this. A lot of moving pieces, and small things can get pretty big from an experience perspective. As an attendee, small things, I don't know, the projector not working right, can really ruin an event. So I'd like to give a big hand to our vendors who help make this happen. The folks at Bluestone, the folks Bluestone. The folks at Clear Sky Video who have been live streaming and will later publish the video of all the talks. And then Ashton over at Mind's Eye Creative over here. She came down from Canada and pretty far out in the country in Canada as well. I imagine like an Oregon Trail adventure, like oxes and wagons, at least from the story Ashton told me. So big thanks, big hand for her. Really, when it comes to throwing an event like this, having a bad partner, a bad vendor, it can ruin everything. So I mean everything. So wholeheartedly, huge thanks. Now I'd like to welcome our last Ignite of the day, of the year really, Mike Penniger from Chemical Abstracts. He's an engineer, a software engineer at Chemical Abstracts, is going to be talking about how to Dockerize your build toolchain. It'll be a really cool talk. Please welcome Mike. And I did forget to mention, very rudely, my short-term memory is kind of tricky up here. It may be difficult to see some things, but we will publish the slides, and there's some things you can learn in the details of the slides. Thanks again. Here's Mike.
Yeah, so I definitely recommend you grab the slides offline or online after the talk, because there's going to be a lot of information on there that you want to look at up close and not try and write down. So my name is Michael Pinniger. I work at Chemical Abstracts. We do DevOps for a large group of developers there on the main project, and we try and make them go fast. So we focus on continuous integration and their workflows. At night, I work for Sasquatch Technology. We're a consulting firm focusing on providing DevOps services. So the talk I'd like to give today is about Dockerizing your build toolchain, and that's essentially what you want to do is take everything that you would use to build your product and put it into a Docker image. And so that when your developers are building their product, they're not relying on what's on their VM. They're relying on what's inside this Docker container. So why would you do that? Well, one of the reasons is flexibility. So if you've ever tried to manage multiple versions of Ruby, multiple versions of Groovy, some kind of library like that, you'll find that it's quite difficult. Now, there are tools out there to help you to do that, but not every application that you want to use has that tool. So Docker lets you package those up in an agnostic way. The other thing is that it lets you reduce your dependency management at the VM level. So you're not trying to install all these dependencies on your VM. Instead, you're providing them as a Docker to your developers so that they can go immediately. Consistency is also really important. So this provides you a build environment that does not vary from VM to VM. You get an immutable Docker, and it just works. And that's something that's pretty important if you've ever had to try and troubleshoot one VM versus the other. This is something I think that people don't really think about. When you have a application, a lot of times you'll do things like change Java versions or change Ruby versions. And if you try and go back and build those old code versions, you'll find that you can't do it without breaking your environment. So versionability is very important. Putting it in a Docker helps with that. This also lowers barriers to entry. So if you're trying to get onto somebody else's project and build their product and help them out, when they can just give you a Docker, you can get going immediately, and you don't have anything standing in your way. So why wouldn't you want to do this? It's always very important to consider that. So I like to call this weirdness, and that's that when you put stuff into a Docker, you get these unexpected results. In this case, we see that the output of ls is not highlighted when it's inside the container. It's also not free. So installing Maven is a well-understood process if you just follow the directions on the website. Putting it inside a Docker means that you're on the hook for understanding all the nuances of what that application needs. So you've got to pay for it every inch. The way that you do this is that you have 3 different things. Each project has a Docker file, and the Docker file is going to contain the dependencies that you need. So it's going to be like Ruby and any binaries that you might have. And then you're going to have an env.sh. And what that's going to do is that's going to invoke Docker with all the different things that you want to pass into it. And you're also going to have something called E. In this case, it's just a shell script that lives on your path. And it understands how to find the env.sh and invoke it. So the E shell script, this is the first part of it. It's going to look up. So it's going to find the env.sh. And it's going to make sure that it gets invoked with the correct path. Because what we want to do is we want to make this transparent to the developers so that when they run their shell script, or when they run their command, they would type E space and then their normal command, and it'll just get invoked. The next part of the shell script obviously passes the command off to the env.sh, which invokes it using the Docker. Oh, wait here, yeah. So one thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you get the right Docker for the right type of your code. So in this case, what we've got is a project that's managed by Maven. This part would be different depending on what your project is. We're using this to read the POM file to get the version so that we get the right Docker. So here, we're using the git root to mount the user's the data directory for their project inside the Docker. We get the version from the read version from the previous slide, and we add them to all the groups that they were outside the container. This is the Docker run command. Remove true just makes sure that we don't end up with a Docker laying around after the invocation. The net host makes sure that we join the same network that the host is, so it seems like you're on the same computer. We also mount the same user. And so the X11 Unix socket, that's done so that if a computer application like Chrome pops up inside the application, inside the Docker, you get to see it. We're going to volume out the Etsy password and Etsy group so that you get those groups internally. And we're also going to mount the time, so local time, time zone, so that they're the same time zone inside. And the Docker sock, I think, is probably one of the most important things in this slide. That basically makes it so that if you're inside a container, you can still make other Docker containers. They'll just get made as siblings instead of children. And this is our final slide. This is what a Docker file would look like. If you look through the slides earlier, there's a link to a presentation, or a link to a repo that has all these files in it, so you can go and try this out for yourself. This would be a Docker file for a project with Maven and NPM. Finally, Sasquatch Technology, that's who I'm here for. That's it. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mike. Now I'd like to introduce, we've been talking about community a lot, working together in our organizations in different roles, collaborating, doing things better and quicker. And we've also talked about community. Just as much as it's important to participate in community, present, and give back, it's important to partner in community. And we're doing that with Devopsdays Ohio as well. And one of the core team members, David, is going to tell you a little more about that. Please welcome David.
All right, so this year we decided to partner with GDI as part of our community reach out. And one of the things that we did as part of that was, let's see, at the meetup, we did a joint meetup where we got a panel from Women in Tech, and we talked about how to write better abstracts and titles so you can actually talk at conferences, at tech conferences. So that was well received, and we'll try to do more later. So this is not a one and done deal, but it's just one of the things that we were trying to do to make this a better place. So Parker will tell you a little bit more about what GDI does.
All right. Thank you, David, for giving me this opportunity to tell you about Girl Develop It. Like you said, my name is Parker. I am co-leader of the Columbus chapter of Girl Develop It. And if you've never heard of us, that's cool. I'm going to change that. So Girl Develop It is a national nonprofit organization committed to providing affordable education for adult women who are interested in learning to code or program for any sort of development that they're interested in. We provide safe and judgment-free environments for women to have the opportunity to learn. And our goal is basically to provide a community for those who have been generally underrepresented in tech. So a little bit of our history. We started in 2010 in New York City with a single class. That class filled up in less than 24 hours, and our founders was like, holy crap, we should probably do more of this. So now we have 57 chapters across the country. So if you're not from Columbus, there may just be a chapter wherever it is that you live. And if there's not and you want to start one, let me know, because that's totally a thing. We just started one in Orlando just a couple of weeks ago. They had their first class, and it was great. As far as like our member composition, we have approximately 2,000 members here in Columbus. And that ranges from people who are brand new to coding or are considering a change in career and want to see what it's all about. They'll come to our events. We also have more intermediate and advanced developers who are just interested in the sense of community that we provide to them. We generally hold about one class a month. Our next one, for example, is Intro to Salesforce, because we recently started a partnership with Salesforce. That one's coming up Saturday, November 18th. If you want more information, you can find it on Meetup. We also offer 2 free events each month. The first one is Code and Coffee. That's the first Monday of every month at Grandview Grind. We also have a Hack Night event the last Wednesday of every month. So that's this month. It's actually like the day before Thanksgiving. So come hang out with us because we're cool. I promise. If you are interested in seeing any of our future events, we have everything posted on Meetup. If you're interested in getting involved as an instructor or a teaching assistant, we're always on the lookout for new people to help us teach women to code. And if you are interested in becoming a sponsor, we are always on the lookout for new sponsors as well, either to provide space where we can hold our events or material donations to help with low-income students. If they don't have, say, a laptop of their own to use, we generally provide that. We also have a scholarship fund, so if you're interested in donating to our fund, that would make us more accessible to low-income students. So if you have any questions about us, I will be around. I'd love to talk to you more about it, so thank you.
Okay, great. I've been to Hack Night several times because, especially when I work remotely, I just go up there and work during Hack Night. And if you bring donuts, they really like it. All right, so.
All right, that's really cool. So remember how we talked about earlier, how if there's not something in your community, you should start it. So there's opportunities to start things like Devopsdays, Girl Develop It, give back, do what you can. Now we have Mike Ducey, who's going to share a couple things with us real quick. Mike is one of the people who helped spark the energy to help create Devopsdays Ohio. He was one of the founding organizers in the team here. He's moved on to different things these days, but he's still around and helping us out here and there. Please welcome Michael Ducey.
Thanks, Warner. That's good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so community is very important, as we've heard. So I want to talk a little bit about the DevOps community here in Columbus. So who can guess when the DevOps meetup started here in Columbus? Start throwing some dates out there, come on. What? 2015? 2009, wow. 2008, wow. So July of 2013, so it's been going, the community's been going for almost 4.5 years. So some people, so I pulled up the meetup from that first time, and some people who are involved, who were there at that very first one who are still involved. Michael Schwartzberg, he was working the, there he is right there. Bill Swanitz, I can never say your name, I'm sorry. Still an organizer, so is Michael. Dan Sainer, who was an organizer in previous years, but he was at the first one as well, and he's floating around here. Where do you think it took place? Like, what business hosted us very first? At a bar. Well, that's close. That's coming up. So what does that look like? Kind of corporate-y? OCLC, very good. So OCLC was the first one that hosted us. There's me with hair. And of course, towards the end, you can see pretty good turnout for the very first one. And then of course, towards the end, there was beer, as there usually is at these things. But I just wanted to point out that this doesn't happen without the participation of the community. We have people who have been in the community for a long time, like Bill and Michael and myself and Warner. But I want to encourage you all to participate in the community, get involved with the Devopsdays meetup, and also make sure that you thank everyone on the organizing committee that have done a lot of work over the last really 12 months, because the work begins as soon as the first one ends. People like Sherry, Renee, Bill, Andy, am I getting everyone's names right? Bill, Michael, Warner, and so forth, because they put in a lot of hard work. And if you're interested in helping, they can always need extra hands. So if you're looking at maybe seeing something that you want to do differently, or have an idea, or want to learn how to organize a conference, this is a great opportunity. So thank you all for being part of the community, and thank you to the organizers for making this happen for the 3rd year in a row.
All right. There's one last thing I need to do before I get off stage for a while and take a break while you guys do some awesome things. All of our gold sponsors help make this happen, and I would like to thank Ops Genie, Pivotal, Cover My Meds, sponsored us all 3 years, IBM, Arista, Ahead, Round Tower Technologies, and App Dynamics. Our gold and silver sponsors, all of our sponsors help make this happen. Without them, we would not be able to afford to pay an awesome venue like Bluestone. So big hand to all our sponsors. Now, I'm going to hand it over to Andy. Andy is going to be helping with the open space portion of our session today. Please welcome Andy.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're still having our open spaces this afternoon, but we are going to slip in an extra fun activity here. Ignite karaoke. Yeah, let's go ahead and explain what we're doing here.
I'm not going to make you raise your hands, but can you please nod if you've seen Ignite karaoke before? One, awesome, okay, cool. So what Ignite karaoke is, you've just seen a whole bunch of Ignite talks, and the format is slides that auto-advance every 15 seconds. Ignite karaoke is based off of an improv game where you just commit to telling a 1-minute story about something using slides that you've never, ever seen before. This is really great if you want to just see how not terrifying it can be or how terrifying it can be. I will demonstrate in the form of an Ignite karaoke. So I'm here to talk about awesome tips for Ignite karaoke. It's great because it's basically us telling stories at each other. Anyone can do this. You don't have to be Einstein. You could be a pit bull. It's fine. You can get away with lying because no one's going to fact check you. And just like the upcoming weekend, it can be a blast. Empty spaces are fine. Yes, it can be kind of scary to get up here. Hopefully you won't lose your cookies. I don't think that's happened yet. And you don't really have to be an expert. You just have to have fun. Just let it go. It'll all be fine in the end. There's guardrails. I mean, there's no guardrails, but like you'll be fine. It can be a real treat standing up here and just going through the Rolodex of what the heck is happening in your brain, and your computer can die. Sorry. But that's okay, because, you know, it'll be fine in the end. That's the end, right? So we have lots of these. Let's hold up. Maybe, oh yeah, it paused itself. Cool, so what happens, nope, these are all, let's not give away the surprises. All right, the way these work is there are 5 slides, and then there's a slide that says switch. That one also lasts for 15 seconds. So if you would like to participate in Ignite karaoke, and it is really thrilling, it'll get your blood going, it's a great after lunch thing. If you could line up by the question microphone, then what can happen, I'm improvising this part too, let me know if I'm breaking fire marshal code or something. Okay. So the idea will be, you'll finish your thing, you'll be full of nerves and happiness because you survived. And during that 15-second switch slide, you'll look at the next person and you'll do a handoff. And the next person will come up and be like, I'm going to talk about, just commit, be like, I'm going to talk about the 5 best DevOps tips I ever learned. springy dinosaurs. You don't want to be a springy dinosaur. I don't know. Okay, now I'm going to ask for a show of hands. Have I explained it well? Cool, awesome. So go ahead and start lining up. You want to go first? All right, I will get the computer set up. If you're up here, you'll be able to look at the slide off of this big screen, and you won't have to do this thing. It's easier on the neck.
Just say when. And I thought I was going to have a year off of not doing an Ignite. I just couldn't give it up, you know? Being up here, talking off the top of your head, especially while you don't know what's going on, it's a blast. Seriously, Ignites are some of the most fulfilling speaking styles I've ever done. They're a lot of work in terms of timing, but they're great. Yeah, my first one, if you guys were here, I hand drew all my slides, hand lettered them. I spent 60 hours on a 5-minute talk. Yes, I obsessed. But I had a blast. And I came back again last year, and I gave another Ignite talk, and here I am. I didn't even plan to do an Ignite talk this year. Hopefully. Okay. Well, I hope to be back doing more Ignites next year. Jump time?
How many system engineers does it take to make Wi-Fi?
All of them. Yep. Well, okay, while that's going on, they had springy dinosaurs up there earlier. So let me tell you a tale about explaining Spring, the application framework, to dinosaurs, aka COBOL programmers. All right, are we going? Okay, so the most important thing about being up here is learning to just deal with it. Technology, well, you know, it doesn't always do what we think it's supposed to. There's always the demo test, the most stringent test in the world. But as long as you keep on top of things, it's great. The 5 symptoms of laziness. 1, you're a sysadmin. 2, you're smart. The best sysadmins are the most lazy sysadmins. You know, why do you want to have to do things over and over and over again? You kind of look like that koala cat. Trying to understand, why do I want to sit here and do the same thing over and over every day? It's boring. I'm just going to lay down and take a nap. And if you've done your automation, it's easy to take a nap. Cafe Bassi, I was addicted to the hokey pokey, but I turned myself around. You know, by learning how to script and be able to set up your system administration tools, you too can turn around how you do things. So you aren't spending time doing it manually all the time. And you can kind of go to your manager, and they're all like, hey, wow, look at what you did. I'm going to give you a raise. That's how it should be, right? Hey, I saved you time, I saved you money. Good, I'll give you some of that money.
Hello, everybody. Ethan Dix. Let's see what we get coming up here first. Local guy I teach at the Idea Foundry, for those of you who have heard of it. We don't make ejection seats there, but we certainly could with all the tools that we have. It's one way to get fired. What do we got? Oh, there we go. And whoops. No. Looks like he was about to reach for some new heights, but he didn't get there. So, all right, I'm thinking of a number between 0 and 1. That's out of bounds. Well, what do we got? Oh, hey, something. Nice. The, there we go, syntax error. Right, got, sorry, just too many things going through the head. Sorry, total blank. We moving? There we go, okay. And, you know, it's that whole new project feel, just out in the swoop, hey, the project's launched. We've all had that feeling, right? Next comes the shovels. But you know, new users, they're cute, aren't they? You know, they try to work a system, and they're just adorable when they go, hey, what's this error? And then you have to take them through everything and kind of get them up to speed, and whoop, hey, time to switch already.
Can you guys hear me fine? Oh, there you go. I can hear me fine. You know, I spoke in front of a board, and I have to tell you, this is the first time I'm speaking in front of so many of you, and I don't know. It's terrifying. Talk to the mic? There you go. All right, so here's the deal about me. I've always been a curious individual, and I'll tell you about the curious individuals. They will always find a way to break the rules, and I've always broken rules. So, sorry you brought me here, but I'm breaking your rule. So the rule is this. I'm supposed to speak about the picture, but I don't know what the heck it is or what it's doing. You know, the first thing I learned in English was how to say good morning, and I learned it from watching Sesame Street. And so, you know, I waited outside an American school in Indian subcontinent, and I waited and waited. No, Chris Evans, I did not knock on the door, if you remember the story. I waited outside for a while, and somebody came out, and I said, good morning. And the answer was good afternoon. And so until high school, I thought the response to good morning is good afternoon. So what am I seeing here? A cat. I love cats.
Oh, that was great. Anybody else want to take a shot? Let's do one more. Come on up. You got it. Yeah, we got time.
Hello, my name is Matt, and I have an improv Ignite problem. Cats. I am happy to say that I am the proud slave of not one, not two, not three, not four, but we're down to 5 feline overlords. And sometimes that is their look on their face, especially if we haven't fed them. Now my daughter, she is so pugnacious. I don't know where she got it from, but she likes dogs. And yet we're in a household of 5 cats. But she wants to introduce a dog. We tell her, you know, the pugs that you like, they're going to get eaten. Now, sometimes, all of our cats, they're foundlings. And people keep trying to give us a cat, and we say, no, we can't take one right now. No, but we want to because they're so cute. Now, sometimes, though, it's funny watching the cats because they'll sit there and they'll think about something. Okay, I know it's going to come out here next, so I'm going to get at it. Or we had one cat who saw that a bug went between a box, and he walked right around the box to the backside, and he was there waiting for that bug. Cats are pretty smart. Turtles, on the other hand, well, you know, they aren't real bright. But, you know. Thank you. These are fun.
Thank you. When the speakers stop, so does Ignite Karaoke. Last chance for someone to be brave.
All right. All right, that's that time. Let's talk about open spaces again. For those who were here yesterday, you guys understand what we're doing, but anybody who's new today, let's just have a real brief run through of what open spaces is. So let's talk about it. There's 3 rules. Whatever happens, happens. Whoever turns up is the right person, and when it's over, it's over. So this is supposed to be a very casual and exciting time where you can share knowledge and ask questions, bring up any topics that you're curious about. Yeah, and it's just a chance to get together with your colleagues and share their knowledge. We have one other rule. The law of mobility means, hey, if you're not getting something out of this, move on. There's another group that's talking about something that there's a good chance you will get something out of, or you can contribute back to everybody. So, a couple roles, I'm sorry. There's the convener. So the person who suggests the topic, it's your responsibility to be at the open space to start your topic. Ask your question, get the dialogue going, and let the conversation go from there. We have bumblebees. Feel free to move around. Like I said, if you're not getting something out of it, move on. There's another group where you can help out or get something from. There's the butterflies. Feel free to network now. Go out in the hallway, chat. This is your time to make friends and like minds. So we would like to also have a moderator. So when you go to an open space, elect somebody to kind of keep the topic on track. As always, conversations have the ability to kind of veer in different ways. Well, you're here for a topic. Try to keep it down to the same path, okay? And also, we have Slack channels that are open for each space. Like somebody to hop in there and actually scribe what you guys are talking about. It's another way to share knowledge with people who can't make it to that space because you're at another space. Use your time wisely. So we have a couple spaces. We have Apple II over on stage left, Amiga, stage right. Atari 800 is stage left up on the balcony. The Commodore 64 is up top over there. Tandy and TRS are in that front room upstairs, both sides. Both sides. All right, so this is the process. All day, you guys have been submitting ideas on the board, but we also want to give you the ability to, if you haven't had a chance to put something on the board, now's your time. Come on up and put a topic on the board. Also, if you've put a topic on the board, come on up and announce it. Let's, we can form a line right over at this microphone and present your idea. After that, what we'll do is we'll go through that process, and then we'll take a short break. You guys can hit the washroom, grab a drink. We'll take care of voting and get the, the room scheduled, and we'll present it on the board here. So, all right, we got enough line. Go ahead.
I wrote down supporting open source software. In corporate America, everybody wants to save money, also talk about increasing shareholder value. But the third thing the leaders talk about is mitigating risks. Getting rid of licensed software and then bringing in open source, brings lots of risk. And how do you? What I want to know from you guys is like, how do you bring that conversation, and how do you talk to your leaders about bringing in open source softwares, and how do you talk to them about support? Not every open source applications are supported by some body, but how do you support? How do you form a support infrastructure or support environment around open source technologies? Thank you.
All right. I'd like to talk about the improvement kata. A couple months ago, I was at Devopsdays Detroit, and Mike Rother, who's the author of Toyota Kata, came and spoke. But he also did a workshop called, well, the Improvement Kata, Kata in the Classroom. And we went through that. It was very interesting. It's the principles behind Kanban. So he said the best way to learn about this is to teach it. So I got all the stuff all ready to go. We did it last week in Madison. It was a good learning experience for me. So come join me. Let's learn together. And I promise you, it'll be the funnest of the sessions, okay? Right.
All right, I'm going to screech into the echo chamber a bit, so please don't throw things at me. In a lot of these talks, and people have mentioned it, and I'm sure we all know it, we all have silos. All the businesses have silos, and they evolve for a reason. So I want to talk about, you know, we always say we need to tear down the silos, but is that correct? Should we be tearing down the silos, or should we be acknowledging what's good about them and coupling them to break what's bad instead?
So I proposed DevOps Book Club. Really, it's just a space to share resources. Doesn't necessarily have to be books. It can be talks or articles or anything you've come across that's kind of improved your understanding of DevOps. I was a part of one of these open spaces. It was more focused on books at another Devopsdays event, and I found it really useful. In the time since, I've actually read a lot of the books that were recommended in that space 2 years ago, and I found my understanding of not only DevOps, but all the other things that DevOps pulls from has greatly increased my understanding of not just my role, but everybody else's role, you know, within the organization, not just within IT.
Stop it feeding back. I proposed cloud-specific or cloud-agnostic, the idea being when does it make sense to use specific tools for particular cloud providers versus making things more generic so you can handle the case where they say, well, you know, you're in AWS now, but actually perhaps we're going to go to Azure.
Like I put up, are you a DevOps engineer? It was kind of driven by Aaron's talk earlier as well. But I guess my idea is, you know, is there such a job title right now? And if there isn't, then what makes up the skill sets? And how's that kind of being defined within your company, in your space of what is a DevOps engineer?
Hey, I'd like to talk about DevOps in small business and startups. So I work at a small company that has 8 employees. Only 4 of them are like software developers. And so we face a lot of challenges with maybe deploying into infrastructure that isn't our own, like we don't own it or manage it. And you know, each project that we handle is a little bit different. So DevOps has its own unique challenges for us. So if you'd be interested in talking about that and how you have coped with it in your small business or startup, let us know.
I'd like to have an open space for Ignite karaoke practice. No microphones, just a bunch of people standing around the television and just like each take one slide and say just really, really short and fewer people.
I proposed the one for card games because I guess one of the sponsors, Cover My Meds, has a cool swag of a deck of cards. I travel with a card game for any of the Wisconsinites out there. It's called Sheep's Head. I've got a rule sheet, so if you've never played it before, you can totally play it. It's a lot of fun. And then if it doesn't end up on there, I'll propose one for hiring practices. So if your company is already doing something, wants to share your story, I can share a story about how D and Simple took on an apprentice at one point, and kind of how we changed our hiring practices. If not, then let's talk about how you can reach out to like Girl Develop It to hire some of their folks.
I'd like to talk about height discrimination in the workplace. Sorry. I'd like to, that's a good idea. That's a good idea, yeah. I'd like to talk about organizations that are not really keen on DevOps or DevOps ideas, tools, sets, anything of that nature, and then how you can grassroots or black ops or what's the other one? Stealth, yeah. How you can get that done and solve a real problem and then use that to convince the execs that that was a good idea, and here's how we make that problem solved even better or smoother.
A lot of times when we talk about DevOps tools and practices, a lot of them have open source or Linux flavors to them. I'd like to talk about the guys who are siloed into Windows environments and are doing their development on .NET and how we can best effectively use DevOps on the Windows side of the house, because that doesn't seem to get as much love as the open source and the Linux stuff.
Open mic night. I'll be here a while, seriously. I put two things on the board, and I just wanted to throw out for the card games. Anybody likes to play sorry. Are you a werewolf? We've got at least two people that want to play. So the two things I put on the board were, one, ITIL or ITSM versus DevOps. So I sense that sometimes there's a tension between those two philosophies or practices. But other people seem to be of the opinion that they get along. So friends or enemies. Is it a turtle versus a cat or two kitties cuddling together? We could talk about that, or not. And the other one was around workspaces. So I put up workspaces yesterday, but I didn't defend it. It's about the concept of the low-walled, open space, small cubicle environments that seem to be popular these days, and trying to focus and get your work done, or how you can kind of take control of creating those spaces as an agile team and be empowered to do that, or not. Thanks.
We're just going to keep holding this up high. All right, so I've got a couple up there. One of them, I would like to restart our meetup in Cincinnati before we go all the way out to creating a Devopsdays. So I put one up there for meetups, just generically. So if anybody is interested in learning about meetups, and we have a meetup expert, I would love to add that to the group, because I'm not. The other one is I'd like to do a post-incident review of my Ignite. So that will also require a facilitator. So if anybody's really good at it and wants to experience a PIR or wants to learn more about the Ignites, then that might be a good place to kind of learn about them and see a post-incident review.
Wonderful. All right, so is there anybody else who has an idea or a topic they want to bring up who has not posted anything yet? All right, well then let's go ahead and get started voting here. Let you read them off.
Yep. All right, DevOps and small business and startups. Show of hands. Really? Okay. Challenges faced in transitioning to DevOps. Supporting open source products. Are you a DevOps engineer? DevOps training opportunities for infrastructure employees. Ignite talks. Giving an Ignite and the review for Michael. Anybody? Okay. Improvement kata.
please vote for this. 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. DevOps versus ITIL. Friends, enemies, or frenemies? To the last part I may have added. 6, 8, 10, 11. DevOps advantages and disadvantages. Okay. Starting or joining a meetup. I'm voting on this one, of course. 1, 2. Okay. Book club. Frustration with open cloud, distracting works, what? Oh, open work environment versus noise, workspaces, and stuff. Six, yeah. Oop. Karaoke. You got 4? DevOps in a Windows and .NET shop. I told you we should get Ashley back out here. $17? Okay. 18. Thank you. That helps. Success and failures. Who wants to talk about fun stuff like that? Successes and failures. Anybody? Okay. Should silos be broken or coupled? Yeah, that is. Here, count. Good enough. Laptop to production and list of tools. You guys don't run production on a laptop? What's the worst that could happen? Yeah. Isn't that called Docker? I mean, yeah. Hiring practices. Are you counting? DevOps via grassroots versus skunk works versus black ops and getting executive buy-in. Teaching and learning DevOps tools, concepts, and skills. Teaching and learning DevOps tools, concepts, and skills. Yeah. Yep. Cloud specific or cloud agnostic? Cloud specific or agnostic? Is that like multi-cloud? Who put that card up? Okay. Cloud and vendor lock-in. Can I recast it to that? Not mine, but that's what I heard. Okay.
That's your idea?
Okay. Good. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I added one. How to collaborate with on-prem infrastructure team from your development side. It's kind of, call that silos. I'm going to dedupe that down to silos. Yeah. Card games. 1, 2. Oh, you're running. All right, guys, give us a few minutes to put this together, and we'll get going again. Thanks.